Hey everyone, we are back for MotorFiles episode 6. I'm out here in the winter storage for the Funduro today because we're actually going to be working on this bike in order to get the other bike, the other Funduro, ready for sale. So I'm going to get this pushed over into the shop and then I'll tell you what we're going to do on this bike so that way we can get the other bike ready. Stay tuned, it's going to be a fun one. I'm really thinking I ought to change the name of the channel to the Funduro Files because it feels like I'm always working on these Funduros. I swear they're amazing bikes. I really love them and they really don't take much maintenance. So basically what was going on with this bike is Julie had borrowed it to go on some errands a while back, and my ignition, this is from the white bike, this ignition, but my old ignition, I'll pull it out here, see how the key goes in right there? On the factory one, there's like a little cover right here with a little red tab that springs out of the way. Well, on this ignition here, which originally was the one for this bike, this red tab had broken off and there's a little spring in there. It got caught down on the bottom of the ignition and it basically stuck the ignition in the lock position, so it locked the steering and you couldn't get it unlocked. So we had to end up towing it to the house. I had to pull the whole front end apart. These ignition cylinders are pretty specific to this model of bike and they're really hard to get right now in the used market. I've been looking for a while. So I ended up trying to take it to a locksmith. Locksmith couldn't figure this out. So I then went through it, pulled the spring out, and had to pull that little plastic latch off, a little hatch, if you will. And then while I was doing that, I still wanted to ride the bike because it was last spring or 2 springs ago. Yeah, 2 seasons ago. I still wanted to ride the bike. So I ended up swapping out ignitions from the other bike that we have that we're getting put together in this episode over to this bike, so that way I could ride it and have full functionality. Hadn't got this fixed yet, now it's fixed. So right now I'm riding with 2 ignition keys because you can see one key here and then the other key there, because I didn't swap out the other lock set. So on this bike you've got a locking gas cap here, and on this side you also have a locking seat, so that way no one can get into that. So what I had done is I kept the key for the ignition I swapped out here, and then I just left the other key on the keychain so that way I could still get under the seat, get into the gas cap if I needed to fill it, which you do when you ride these bikes. So what I want to do is I want to swap out to my fixed original ignition, so I have it all in the same key, and I'm going to take this ignition cylinder and I'm going to go put it in the white, soon to be a different color, which you'll see later in this episode. I'll put it in the other Funduro, so that way it's all in the same key and everything's hunky-dory when I go to find a new home for it. One thing that I don't care for on this bike, and it's just something you learn to live with, oh, looks like a bird pooped on that, is anytime you want to work on something, pretty much except change the oil and change the air filter, a lot of the components live under this front fairing here. So you get really good at taking the front end off. I can't tell you how many times I've taken the front end off on this machine in order to get to everything, because pretty much all the important electronics, for the most part, besides the starter relay and the ignition box and whatnot, all live under here, including the bolts to get to the triple tree to take the ignition out. So next steps is we're going to get this set up. I'm going to get my Allen wrenches out and we're going to pull the front end off this bike, and I'll show you how we're going to get to the ignition cylinder and then how we're going to get it replaced. Firing is off. As you can see, it's about 20 screws and then a couple plugs for the headlight here and turn signal here and here. So not terribly hard to get to. What is kind of a pain in the butt, and it might be hard to see on camera, is the ignition cylinder lives right here where my finger is. And then there's 2 bolts. Usually a safety bolt and then kind of 12 mil. I have, since I've changed this out, I've added two 12 mil bolts. I believe they're 12 mil to make this a little bit easier. And then there's two plugs. I believe it's these two right here. So if you're doing this at home, you can follow along. That you plug into the main harness section, main harness plug in here. And that helps, you know, makes it pretty easy to change out. That's why I said it's kind of a pain in the butt with these Funduros, is because everything electronic wise through the dashboard and whatnot and controls all lives under this panel. So you get really used to pulling that front end apart. That being said, I'm going to grab a 12 mil and an extension, and we're going to pop out these two bolts, and then the ignition cylinder, hopefully, without much trouble, should drop down. And we should be able to unplug it, run the new one up, bolt it back together, and then we will have the ignition for the white, soon-to-be black bike, which you'll see later on. We'll have that extracted from this bike, the new one plugged in, and we should be good to go. So I'm going to get going on that and go grab some sockets, and we'll get this all taken care of. I got the new ignition cylinder stabbed in and bolted down. It's not really going anywhere. I will have more of a long-term fix on this. I'm planning for a future episode. I don't really love having this kind of open to the elements right here. I'd rather have some kind of trapdoor or a different security system altogether. So stay tuned for that. I'll talk about that in a future episode, but we are plugged in. So I've got the wire ran from the ignition cylinder to these two plugs here, plugged in, and then let's see if she turns on. I think it will. Perfect. Oh yeah, and I've replaced these with LEDs, so we've got all LEDs now, which is dope. So that's good. Let's go get this front fairing put back on and get this bike all buttoned up so I can go ride it. We are all back together. Didn't lose any screws this time. Try not to lose them. I've got my original ignition for this bike, so everything's keyed match now. Only thing I gotta do is I'm gonna do a little quick side project. Might film that, might not, we'll see. And I got a bird that really liked it and marked it, so I gotta clean that off. I'll clean the windscreen off, and then I will see you back at the other bike, and we will talk about what's next for that one. We got the bike over here, so we're gonna get this Funduro going. What I'm gonna do today is I have my old ignition cylinder, so we're gonna get that plugged in. I went and dug through my parts bin, and I've got a couple little bolts that'll work. It's gonna mount right here on the bottom of the triple tree. We'll get that slid in, and then we'll get this plugged in, and we should be good to go. Then I'm gonna pull the tank off, disconnect the fuel line, and we're gonna spray it down with some cleaning spray, because this thing is absolutely disgusting. All right, we got that all cleaned up with the super clean, so it's nice. It's already kind of pulling some of the grime off the cylinder head, so we'll let that soak overnight. I'm gonna put the cover on it, and then we'll pick it back up first thing in the morning with the pressure washer and get this thing hosed off. Sorry if I'm a little gross right now, but the Funduro is all clean and ready for final assembly. Let me show you. Looks really nice. I'm super excited to get this going. So I'm gonna put all the bodywork back on, probably clean the chain. I've got some exciting luggage we're gonna throw on here. This rack's a little tweaked, so I'm gonna tweak it back to where it's straight. Couple little minor touch-up things, and we should be good to go. So let's get to it. Let's get the tools out. Let's get this bodywork put back on.
A few moments later.
Well, we did it. First ride was a success. Check it out. I think it looks really sharp. I kind of like it. But figured out that it was running weird. Obviously it needed a carb cleaning, but there's a little vacuum line up in the carburetor. In the air box, there's an air injection system. It runs through to give fresh air to the catalytic converter, and it needs vacuum from the carburetor. So that wasn't routed correctly from the previous owner. That's what ended up parking it and leaving it left for dead for a couple of years. But got the bags on. I really love these Rig Gear Adventure waterproof bags. Got these for free from a friend. I don't know if they'll end up living with this bike. I kind of want to put them on my red bike. The Raptor liner's looking great. It's running fantastic, as you saw earlier. Got it out. So time to run some fuel through this thing, give it the old Italian tune-up, and enjoy it and get it ready for its next home. That was a really fun project, and there's a couple of minor little things I want to do. I've got some hand guards for it, so we'll put those on. I've got some new mirrors for it that look better. Give it a good detail, check everything over, maybe give it an oil change if it needs it. But it's not leaking and everything's looking great. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I will see you on the next one. I'm gonna go take this thing for a rip.